Question. What kind of agreements have you made with yourself? Like no Chinese food after 7 o'clock or intermittent fasting. Yes. Like what are some real agreements that you've made with yourself and how are they really affecting how you live? This is the PepTalk Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Jay. And today in this episode, we are talking about a book that can sincerely and significantly impact the way that you live and the way that you think. That's right. I'm talking about The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, and we're going to unpack it in a way that will allow you to see its impact in your mindset and the way that you live your life starting right now. So my question is, have you had your dose of pep today? No? Don't worry. I got you. Let's go. Welcome to episode 26 of the PepTalk Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Jay, a life coach out of Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. And it is my pleasure to have you joining me for another episode. Remember, we treat these like it is your one-on-one life coaching session, and you've been rocking with us for 26 sessions. You've been showing up faithfully, and I appreciate it. Y'all know the mission of this podcast is to cheer you on and to coach you up. That's right. I'm here to be your biggest cheerleader, but I'm also here to challenge you to level up and to elevate in every area of your lives. And today we are doing something of a book study. If you've been with us since the beginning, you know that in episodes, I believe it was 3 and 4, we broke down the book, The Alchemist, by Pablo Coelho. And we talked about its implications for our lives. And I stretched it across 2 podcast episodes. And we're going back to talking about another book that I think is really impactful. And that book is The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Now, this book was first published in 1997. It spent 8 years on the New York Times bestseller list and sold 6 million copies worldwide. I'm sure that number is probably up to 7 or 8 because it is still all over book lists, personal development lists, professional development lists. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this book in this episode is because I believe that the agreements that we make with ourselves, like the pacts, the promises that we make to ourselves, they hold weight. And as much as it's important that we keep our promises to the people in our lives, it's also important that we keep our promises to ourselves. Like if I say, Jay, you are going to create a podcast and you're going to make 26 straight episodes. It's important to me that I do that so that the very next time I make a promise to myself, I have a track record. It's like me breaking a promise to my kid. If I break a promise to my kid and say I'm going to get you ice cream, but I don't, the very next time I say that I'm going to get them ice cream, they don't believe me. And there are systems in our body that remember, and in our mind, that remember the promises that we make to ourselves, so that when we begin a process of breaking our word, breaking our promises to ourselves, the next time we make promises, limiting mindsets and negative narratives begin to pop up and remind us, hey, you said we were going on a diet yesterday, but you ate 5 triple cheeseburgers. Oh, you said that we were going to take this day for self-care, but we didn't. So evidently self-care is not important to us, so we'll just keep pushing on and doing the same thing the same way. Keeping your word to yourself is important, and I think, and I know, I really believe that this book, the 4 guiding principles from this book, can help us with making agreements with ourselves that stick. Now, the impetus for this book, the origination of this book, comes from ancient Toltec traditions and teachings. However, I believe, as a Christian, I believe that there is evidence for these beliefs in my Bible. But also, even more than that, I believe that this is wisdom that can stretch across belief systems no matter what you believe, no matter what you subscribe to. I believe these are universal truths that can help any person become the best version of themselves or move further along that pathway. So I need you to stick with me today, right? This is your one-on-one session, your one-on-one life coaching session. Y'all know this is what I do, and I read a lot. And I believe that there is wisdom and knowledge to be gleaned from everything that we read. It just depends on how you choose to apply it and what the implications are for your life. So let's start breaking down these 4 agreements from this book, and let's talk about them. Number 1, be impeccable with your word. Our words hold immense power. They can build others up or they can tear them down. And to be impeccable with our word means speaking with integrity, avoiding gossip and self-deprecation, and using our words to uplift ourselves and those around us. And by embracing this agreement, we can create a positive environment and strengthen our relationships. Now, let's talk about this a little bit more. We've had a podcast episode where I asked you if you were your own best friend. Being impeccable with your words, you cannot help but be a friend to yourself and a friend to other people. And I've said this so many times over the course of this podcast, is that you can't treat people poorly and expect them to want to be around you. If I'm always showing up into social situations and I'm Debbie Downer, everything that comes out of my mouth is negative. Everything that comes out of my mouth is critical. Nobody's going to want to be around me. In the same form and fashion, if I'm always negative with myself, if I'm self-deprecating, if I, am not encouraging and uplifting myself and those around me, I'm going to find myself alone. Speaking negative about myself is a great way to alienate myself. And I've told you, even if everybody else leaves you alone, don't you dare be that person who alienates you and isolates yourself as well. So it is so important that you are impeccable with your word. Some of you listening, you have a bad habit of speaking poorly about yourself. You need to stop it. As your coach, I'm telling you to stop it right now. Consider for a moment when you spoke with impeccable words. How did it impact your relationship or your situation? I want you to reflect right now. This is audience participation. I want you to reflect right now on the power of your words and how you can be more intentional in using them for a positive impact. Think about the words that you're using on a daily basis. Are you building up or are you tearing down? Are you creating positivity or are you creating negative spaces? Wherever you go, are your words sowing beautiful things so that you can reap beautiful things? Or are your words hitting the ground and hitting people's lives like weeds, choking them off, choking the life out of them? Not bringing life, but bringing death. Y'all, the power of life and death, it's in the words that you are speaking every day. And as someone who sees people flippantly just throw words out there, I've heard it said that the reality that you are living today is based on the words that you spoke in the past. So if your reality right now is not what you want it to be, you need to look at the words that you've been saying in your past and shift them so that what your future looks like is more in line with where you see yourself. So that's agreement number 1. Be impeccable with your word. Number 2, don't take anything personally. Woo. Now, this one can be hard. Okay. So I recently applied for a different kind of job. Right. It was one that I knew that I'd be good at. However, they decided to go with another candidate. And immediately I took it as an affront to a personal attack on maybe I was missing something. Okay. That's a defense mechanism of mine that I know of. So I was able to pull myself out of that and understand that I'm not always going to be the best candidate for every position, no matter how great I think I am, right? So how often do we allow others' opinions and actions to affect our emotional well-being? Oof, that's hard. So this agreement number 2, it teaches us that nothing others do is because of us. It's a reflection of their own reality, their own needs, and their own beliefs. So by not taking things personally, we can detach from unnecessary suffering, we can build resilience, and we can foster a growth mindset. So everything that happens in my life is not personal to me. And the sooner I'm able to separate what other people do or how they respond, the more that I'm able to separate how people respond to me as a reflection about me, the better I'm able to bounce back. The better I'm able to respond to them in a positive way, even if what they said was negative. Understand that a lot of the ways that people react and respond to you has nothing to do with you, but it has everything to do with what they're going through, their beliefs, their needs, their perspectives. Okay? Maybe they haven't been impeccable with their words. Maybe they take everything personally. But that doesn't mean that you have to. And it's important that if we are to protect our emotions and not be emotionally led, but to be well balanced, it's important for us to understand that everything is not personal. Everybody is not trying to attack your emotions to make you feel bad. Everybody is not trying to tear you down no matter what they say or what they do. It's not all about you. It's not all about me. And the sooner we understand that, the better off and the more balanced and healthier we will be. I bet you think this song is about you. I don't know why that song just came up, but I think it fits. It fits. It fits. It is not always about you. And I'm going to go a step further and tell you that unless someone comes to you and says, I'm speaking personally to you, don't even make that assumption. Don't do it. Save yourself the heartache. Save yourself the headache of agreeing that from this point forward, we're not taking things personally. Unless someone personally comes to us and says, oh, I want you to take this personally, then we can deal with that. But if someone is saying you're not hired for this job, we went with another candidate, or at this juncture, we are not going to book with your good or your service, or at this point, I don't think that we can give you the loan for your business. The business plan is great, but there are some things you need to work on. They are not attacking you personally. All right? They're not. Be balanced and measured in how you hear. Be balanced and measured in how you process. And just don't take things personally, man. Take a deep breath, and I want you to reflect on a recent situation where you felt the urge to take something personally. How might things have unfolded differently if you had approached it from the perspective of not taking it personally? Think about what the implications would have been for your personal or professional growth, or even your emotional freedom. Like, how did your emotions get tied up into a knot because of you taking something personally that probably shouldn't have been? Just think about it. Take a moment, take a breath, pause the podcast, and think about it. And when you're ready, let's resume. So agreement number 3, don't make assumptions. And I kind of alluded to it in agreement number 2. We often jump to conclusions or make assumptions about other people's intentions, leading to misunderstandings and conflicts. So this agreement, it encourages us to ask questions, to seek clarifications. That's a good one. And to communicate openly. By releasing assumptions, we create space for understanding, empathy, and growth in our relationships. Y'all, clarity is king. Not just when making, digital content, not when making TikToks or reels for your audience. Clarity is king in your relationships. Clarity is king in your filter. Clarity is king in your understanding. Clarity is king. Clarity will save you from making faulty assumptions about people and situations that will mess you up. The sooner we are able to release our want, our need, our addiction to making assumptions. I've been so guilty of making assumptions and not been willing to use open communication to get clarification. Resist the urge. If you need clarification after somebody says something or does something, have the courage to have those critical conversations. But making the assumption will almost 100% lead you down a pathway that will cost you relationships, that will burn bridges, that will set you back emotionally, financially, all of those leads. Making assumptions is a life killer. And if you are living your life by the tenet that it's okay to assume, then you are making a blank out of you and everybody else around you. And I'm not going to say the blank, you can fill the blank in. But living a life by making assumptions, building a business by making assumptions. And listen, here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that you should not take in all the facts and the information and make an informed decision. But what I am cautioning you against doing is just making an assumption all willy-nilly based on how you're feeling and your emotions, not getting the clarification, not communicating, and taking your assumption as the truth. Everybody who's hurt you did not mean to hurt you. Everybody who rejected you did not mean to reject you. The clarification is going to be necessary. And as your life coach, I am telling you with 100% certainty on my part that when you allow yourself to communicate, when you don't run from the critical conversations, the clarification that comes is healing to you. And it keeps you from spending years in a dark place, in a sunken place, dealing with the outcomes and the onsets and the outcomes of those assumptions. It may have worked well for you in your past, but for where you were going and for what is required of you, you have to learn that you can't make assumptions. You cannot. Like, think about a time when assumptions led to a misunderstanding or a strained relationship. Assumptions are relationship killers. And how might those outcomes have changed had you chosen to communicate? People can't read your minds. If you assume they meant to hurt your feeling, but you don't give them the benefit of the doubt to go back and ask them what they meant, you were doing them and you a disservice. And you are better than that. I don't know you personally, but if you're listening to this podcast as your coach, I'm telling you that you are better than that. Don't make the assumption. Embracing this agreement, number 3. It allows you to seek clarity that fosters personal growth and healthy connections. So that's agreement number 3. Agreement number 4. Always do your best. Who believes that one out there? Just raise your hand out there. My hand is raised. I believe it. So this agreement reminds us to bring our best selves to every situation, regardless of the circumstances. Regardless of the outcome, y'all. Our best may vary from day to day, but by giving our all, we avoid self-judgment and regret. And this agreement allows us to grow and learn from every experience, whether it works well for us or not. And it fosters a continuous improvement mindset. always do your best. I can't come to you today and promise you that always doing your best is always going to work out best for you. But always doing your best will always produce the best in you. Y'all hear me? Let me say it again. Doing your best will not always bring the best for you, but it always produces the best in you. When you are able to give your best effort, regardless of whether you get the promotion, regardless of whether anybody comes and pats you on your back, then you are on your way to doing amazing things, because you are releasing yourself from the need to have affirmation from other people, and instead you are affirming yourself. You don't need the reward and recognition outwardly, because you're able to give it to yourself, because you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you have done everything that you could do. In the time that you had, you have done your best. How many times have you not done your best? Like you've been sitting there and you've just thrown in the towel because you just don't care. Your boss isn't coming in to give you that employee of the quarter plaque or the teacher of the year plaque, or you're not getting recognized for your nonprofit efforts or your volunteering efforts, so you throw in the towel. That's not the right thing to do. It's not. When you don't do your best, you let yourself down. And those are hard scars to come back from, letting yourself down. I can tell you from personal experience. In the times where I have not given my best, the regret is real and it is very hard to toss aside. So I need you to make the agreement with yourself that no matter what, no matter who notices, you are always going to do your best. Now, by incorporating these agreements into our lives, we create a solid foundation for personal growth, stronger relationships, and a mindset that embraces continuous development. And y'all know, those are the things that I talk about all the time on the podcast. Your mindset has to be geared toward these 4 agreements. You're not making them with anybody else. You are making them with yourself. And I think what I love most about these 4 agreements is that they're practical. But I want to make them even more practical for you. So when we come back from this short break, I want to take each of these 4 agreements and I just want to give you 3 things that you can do starting right now to see an immediate improvement in your life by making these agreements. This is episode 26 of the PepTalk Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Jay. We're talking about the 4 agreements, y'all. We'll be right back. All right, we are back, episode 26 of the PepTalk Podcast, talking about the 4 agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And in the first segment, we talked about each of the 4 agreements. Be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, and always do your best. And we talked about how they apply to each of our lives and to our mindsets. So what I want to do now is I want to take each of those 4 agreements and give you 3 bullet points for things that you can incorporate in your life right now to see improvement. Okay? All right. So number 1, be impeccable with your word. So number 1, 3 things you can do real quick. Speak consciously. So before you speak, pause and reflect on your words. Okay? Ask yourself if what you're about to say is necessary, if it's true, and if it's uplifting. Number 2, avoid gossip and negativity. When it's happening around you, refrain from engaging, and even more so, remove yourself from the situation. And number 3, practice self-empowering language. Please be mindful of how you speak to yourself. Replace self-deprecating thoughts with empowering affirmations and positive self-talk. All right. Agreement number 2, don't make assumptions. So here are your 3 bullet points. Get ready. Number 1, shift your perspectives. Remind yourself that people's behaviors and opinions are a reflection of them, not you. Number 2, practice empathy. Seek to understand other people's perspectives and motivations. Okay, cultivating empathy, it allows you to respond with compassion instead of judgment. And then number 3, strengthen your self-worth. Develop a solid sense of self-worth that isn't dependent on anybody else to affirm it in you. Simple, right? All right. Agreement number 3, don't make assumptions. So number 1, communicate openly. Ask clarifying questions when in doubt. Okay? Don't assume other people's intentions. Number 2, practice active listening. Listen to understand, not simply to respond. And I say this all the time. So many times we listen to have a quick response when we really should be listening to understand where the other person is coming from. And then 3, embrace curiosity. Cultivate a mindset of curiosity and openness. Be willing to explore different perspectives and challenge your own assumptions. And then finally, number 4, agreement number 4, always do your best. So number 1, set realistic expectations. Understand that your best may vary from day to day. Some days your best may be you cook a 7-course meal. The next day your best may be cooking some ramen. Okay? Set realistic expectations. Number 2, practice self-care. Take care of yourself, folks. You're the only you that you have. If something's wrong, go to your doctor. If you're thinking wrong, come to a coach like me or a psychologist or psychiatrist. Take care of yourself. If you need a day off from work, take a day off from work. Go to the spa or stay in your bed all day and watch Netflix with a tub of ice cream. Okay? Take care of yourself. And number 3, embrace a growth mindset. View every experience as an opportunity to learn and grow. Embrace challenges and setbacks as valuable lessons that contribute to your growth and development. And I think if I can add one more thing to this entire conversation, it's simply this. Practice self-love, because you're the only you that there will ever be. And if you don't love you, none of the rest of the things we've talked about in this episode are going to help that. So love yourself. Okay? All right. So our quote of the day is going to come directly from the 4 agreements. And it simply says this: find yourself and express yourself in your own particular way. Express your love openly. Life is nothing but a dream, and if you create your life with love, your dream becomes a masterpiece of art. It's beautifully said. I can't add anything to it. So as we get ready to wrap this episode up, I want you to make these 4 agreements with yourself, and I want you to be impeccable with your word and resolve to uphold them to the best of your abilities. And actually, go find the book. Listen to it on Audible. Go grab it on Amazon or wherever you get your books from. It's a good read. It's a solid read. And I promise you, the teachings in it are impactful, and they will hit you wherever you are. And I think that it's going to be a great journey, a great resource to add to your journey. So, y'all, this has been episode 26 of the Pep Talk Podcast. We are moving closer and closer toward wrapping up season 1. I've already started making some plans for season 2, and I'm excited about it. But it's been a fun ride with you all so far. And I just want to tell you, I love you. Thank you for coming and joining with us every Monday. Thank you for having your own one-on-one session. And I want to hear from you. So holler back at me. I really want to hear from you. So holler back on any of the socials, Instagram at _JB Speaks. Send me an email at thepeppodcast@gmail.com. I really just want to hear from you. I want to know what you're thinking about what we're doing. I want to know what's impactful to you. And I just want to get to know you all better, so that this is not a one-sided conversation, because each and every one of you plays a major role in how I pray for these episodes and how I prepare for the content that I'm going to give you. So this has been episode 26 of the Pep Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Jay, a life coach in DFW. And y'all know how we end these episodes, right? Say it with me. Keep it love, keep it light, and keep it pepe. I'll see you next time, y'all. Be blessed.